The new Republican House majority passed their first piece of legislation Monday night, a bill slashing tens of billions of dollars in funding for the IRS. That will hit a legislative wall, though, in the democratically controlled Senate. Of course, the president would never sign it. They also passed a rules package that paves the way for a new panel led by incoming House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, expanding his power to both subpoena and investigate federal agencies. The so-called Committee on Weaponization of the Federal Government, a potential disruption to the Biden policy agenda and the ongoing probes into former President Trump and even some Republican members of Congress. They would end up investigating the investigators who were investigating them. Joining me now, NBC Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale and New York Times media and politics reporter Jeremy Peters. Ali, first take us through the action playing out on the floor last night. McCarthy won his rules, the rules for the Rules Committee on a basically party line vote. But what it means going forward, because the access to intelligence, the access to the January 6th investigations by people like Scott Peters, who are under investigation, is extraordinary.
Well, Andrea, this is what we were talking about, too, as the speaker vote culminated on the 2-year anniversary of January 6th, that so many of the key players who were involved in the negotiations, people like Scott Perry and Jim Jordan and others, were members who were focused on by the January 6th committee. McCarthy himself is one of the 5 Republicans who defied a subpoena request from the January 6th committee. And so many of these players, if you were to put them on a Venn diagram, they would have a lot of overlap. Now we're seeing that people like Scott Perry could be integral to the future investigations, whereas you say they're trying to investigate the investigators. But this is one of the key focuses, and we're going to see the House, when they come back today, vote around 4 o'clock to fully establish these select committees. This idea that they're establishing a select committee on the weaponization of government, that's what they're calling it, does speak to the larger landscape here of how this House Republican majority wants to function, which is not just as a consistent check on the Biden administration, because certainly that's what divided government is, but that they see their role as really exercising subpoena power and looking into all of these agencies, whether it's the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, what happened with, for example, the Mar-a-Lago investigation, all of these key things that have happened over the course of the last 2 years. We're going to watch Republicans try to do, frankly, what Jonathan Lemire said in your last segment, which is, at the very least, just try to muddy the waters on this as they head into an election year in 2024.
Just in, Alan Weisselberg, the Trump Organization's former chief financial officer, has been sentenced to 5 months in jail. Now, he pleaded guilty last year to multiple tax crimes related to former President Trump's real estate empire.
CNN's Kara Scannell joins us now. So, Kara, I was surprised to hear that he's going to Rikers Prison, which is where hardcore criminals go.
Well, Allison, that's right. So Alan Weisselberg today sentenced by the judge who had overseen the trial of the Trump Organization. And he sentenced Weisselberg to a sentence of 5 months in jail. And in New York City, if you're sentenced to jail, which is a term of anything less than a year, you go to Rikers Island prison. It is a notorious prison. It is known for being a very dangerous prison. And it has had federal oversight of it for some time. But Weisselberg, because of this deal he had made when he pled guilty last August, he got a sentence of 5 months in jail and 5 years of supervised release. Now, the judge saying today that, having presided over the trial, listened to the evidence and listened to the testimony of Weisselberg, he said if he had not made that promise, he would have sentenced Weisselberg to a much stiffer sentence. He said what he found so offensive during this trial was that Weisselberg had gotten his wife a $6,000 paycheck from the Trump Organization entities to enable her to get Social Security benefits. And the judge said that since Weisselberg was so well paid, had received all these off the books compensation, including the company paid apartment, the cars, the private school tuition for his kids, he said that was so offensive to him that he would have sentenced him to a greater amount of time in jail had he not already made this deal. Now, this came after Weisselberg's attorney had asked for a softer sentence, had saying that when you're 75 years old, every month in jail counts. The judge obviously rejecting that and saying that he did find that Weisselberg had met all the terms of his plea agreement. He did find that he acted with such greed that he would have sentenced him more. But in the end, he sentenced to 5 months in jail and 5 years of supervised release. Now, Weisselberg was remanded into custody. He was handcuffed. He will be processed, and then he will be sent to Rikers Island at some point today. Allison, Victor?
China has stopped issuing short-term visas to individuals from South Korea and Japan in retaliation for COVID restrictions imposed on Chinese travellers. Well, the Chinese officials say it is discriminatory to single out Chinese travellers. Inside China, state media are downplaying risks from the virus. Officials from several major cities and provinces have said the infection rates are past their peak. Well, I'm joined now by the Telegraph's Asia correspondent, Nicola Smith, who is in Seoul. Nicola, thanks very much for joining us today. Can you give us a sense of reaction to this announcement by China?
Well, so far the main reaction has been political. The foreign ministry here has said that they've made their decisions based on science and that it's not a political reaction. And President Yoon has also said, he said yesterday that it was not about politics. It was about protecting the population from COVID and from any risk. There's likely to be a bigger reaction from the business community or the tourism industry as they face the ramifications of what's happened and the inconvenience of not being able to travel on short-term visas to China. But as we've seen over the past few years, there have been huge restrictions in traveling into China anyway. So it's unclear what the immediate impact is going to be.
And do we know what level of travel there is between South Korea and China, presumably for personal and, as you say, business reasons?
Well, we do know that South Korea and Japan are both in the top 5 destinations that Chinese travellers wanted to go to now that the border restrictions have lifted. So the travel between the China and South Korea has been huge. And certainly with the Lunar New Year coming up, there were a lot of tourists who wanted to come here. They still can. They just have to test negative for COVID. And certainly businesses would have been very keen to get their people back into China where they have not been able to do so during the entire pandemic.
How much worry has there been about potential new variants emerging in China with such large numbers of people having been infected?
I don't think there's a huge amount of concern among the local population. I think there's just more of a desire to have transparent data from China. And that's the key issue, really, that people are wary of the data that is coming out of Beijing. South Korea was obviously one of the countries that was hit first during the pandemic. When the pandemic started in January 2020, and South Korea was one of the first countries outside of China that really had to deal with an outbreak. So there's definitely a sense of wariness about new variants, about what the huge surge in a neighbouring country could mean for South Korea. South Korea has been battling its own waves, and it's been doing so very well with the help of medical intervention and good vaccination coverage. But the information that's coming out of China is just so vague that people are worried about what is happening there and the immediate impact it could have on South Korea.
Nicola Smith in Seoul from The Telegraph. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
We continue our focus on this now, though, on CBS News. Joining us for more from Capitol Hill is CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Scott, we just heard Jessica there kind of describe some of the similarities, some of the differences, but there's now a political question at play. Some Republicans, of course, seizing on this to invalidate the Mar-a-Lago search. How are Democrats reacting to all of this?
We're hearing a lot, and we heard it pretty quickly, Errol. First of all, the news. Congressman Michael Turner of Ohio, the top Republican on the House Intelligence Committee, says he's going to recommend or request a Department of National Intelligence damage review of what might have been revealed or exposed or what damage might have been incurred by documents being at the Penn Biden Center versus where they maybe more properly have been kept. Congressman Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, which has, among other things in its portfolio, reviews of the Biden administration in this new Congress, says what he's read so far and what he's reviewed so far shows the Biden team was immediate and proper with how it responded to finding these documents, handing them over promptly to the National Archives in November. clear as day. This will be a political issue that resonates in Congress over the coming days, if not the coming weeks, and that means it is going to be a political question the White House will have to answer over the coming days and coming weeks.
Absolutely. And we're already hearing some quotes from Democrats being thrown back at them that they made during Mar-a-Lago right now. So absolutely a political arrow in their quiver. So let's talk, though, about something a little bit different, if you will, Scott. New York Democrats have newly filed an official complaint asking the House Committee on Ethics to investigate Congressman George Santos. Talk to us about this latest complaint, Santos's response, and remind our viewers why this is such a bizarro case.
Yeah, Lana, add this complaint and this review to the list of complaints and reviews of George Santos, the first-term congressman from Long Island. Just a few minutes ago, here in Capitol Hill, two of his New York colleagues, Democrats, Dan Goldman and Richie Torres, both from New York City, hand-delivered an ethics complaint to Santos's office, which, by the way, is being staked out by about a dozen cameras and has been since he was sworn in on Saturday morning. In the ethics complaint, they ask questions about the financial disclosures made by Congressman Santos in his campaign filings and his campaign paperwork, also raising the question about where did the $700,000 come from he loaned himself during the 2022 election cycle, the congressman citing the most recent reports from Santos that he had only earned about $55,000 a year ahead of making that loan. There's investigations underway. The district attorney's office on Long Island. Brazilian authorities are investigating Santos for an alleged 2008 credit or check fraud scheme. And there's also an investigation or a request for an investigation with the Federal Election Commission. The problems keep piling up, but Congressman Santos remains in office and says he will stay in office.
Interesting stuff. Scott McFarland, thanks.
Thanks, Scott.